Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Wings Podcast. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri. Today, let's meet Anoushka Shah, a graduate with a master's degree in international relations and social anthropology from the University of St. Andrews, Scotland. At a very young age, Anoushka was compelled to pivot her career path after the untimely and unexpected loss of her father. She had to take on a leadership role as the head of business development and operations in her family business, the Perfect Group, established in 1964, which specializes in precision engineering component manufacturing. In this role, she collaborates and partners with major Indian and global automotive OEMs. In addition to this, art and community services have been a pivotal part of her life, serving as powerful anchors in coping with complexities of personal and professional life. Welcome, Anoushka, to this episode of Wings Podcast.
Hello, Milind. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you today?
I'm very good, and I'm very excited to be here, and also very honored for you to have me on your podcast and to give me the opportunity to, have this interview. So thank you.
No, I mean, Anoushka, the honor and privilege is indeed ours because, the Wings Podcast, by design is very much a platform created for young Indians like you to share your stories, your experiences of life, how you see yourself in today's India and the world of today. So, let's jump into the conversation. And this was a very, very rich introductory text I had from you, and I should really say that, to be very honest, because the canvas seems to be pretty large here at such a young age in life. So why don't we begin with the current work that you're doing at Perfect Group and help us understand, what is your family business? It's been around for more than 5 decades, and the role that you play here as the head of business development and ops.
Sure. So the company was established by my great-grandfather and my grandfather in 1964, as we've mentioned. What we primarily do is manufacture various critical engine components that go into internal combustion engines. Now, what I do as in my role as business development and as head of operations is, one, to sort out new customers, to develop them to develop ourselves as their suppliers, and then two, as operations, to ensure that all of the production and all of the components that we're supposed to be supplying to our customers all of these aspects are running smoothly, right? Now, I'll focus more on business development first, because this is a very key aspect of how we have managed to be around for over 5 decades. It's not easy for legacy family businesses to sustain for so many years, and that to sustain with a majority of, the control being in the family. So one of the key things we do is we have excellent technical expertise that allow us to kind of overcome these very high entry barriers that a lot of OEMs, which means original engine manufacturers or original equipment manufacturers, a lot of these OEMs have extremely high entry barriers. And so you have to almost jump through these very interesting hoops. I like to visualize them as these hoops of fire that we have to keep jumping through until we get to an approval stage. And from that approval stage, we get to a regular production stage. You could think of it as the courtship period in a relationship, where you really have to impress your customer, or, in this case, your partner. And, you need to really time and again display and demonstrate that you are more than capable of overcoming any kinds of challenges that we are able to foresee. So there's a very high emphasis on demonstrating that you're able to overcome all sorts of failure modes that could possibly happen, right? These are technical machines that we're talking about that help us do a multitude of things. So to give you a brief example, our components go into tractors, into power generation gensets, into commercial vehicles, into ships, into trains, locomotive engines. So it's a very big space. And so you have lots of different types of customers. However, because we are only making engine components, it's also a limited pool. So you have to make sure that you're able to capture as many of these engine manufacturers as you can. So the first part is this courtship where, you need to kind of woo your customer and show them that you're more than capable of becoming their supplier.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second part is to then get them to, take as many components as they can from you, right? So you can maximize, your relationship with a single customer by doing, X amount of work, but whatever your products are in the end kind of multiply because you've already gone through that process once.
So let me just quickly butt in here to get me, help me understand this very important point you're just trying to say. And I'm just trying to bring in a simple analogy which I am familiar with. For example, Amazon is very much a part of our everyday life. And I know for me, my relationship with Amazon started many, many, many years back when I used to buy my books because that was the only supply that they had. But then having had me over a period of time, Amazon kept on adding several products to the extent that they also through Amazon Prime and Music meet my entertainment requirements. So having signed up with me, they end up giving me a plethora of products and services. So is this how what you're trying to say, that you sign up with one OEM and you have multiple product lines which we then widen and deepen the engagement? Is this, I don't know whether this metaphor is right.
So maybe Amazon is too broad because we cannot offer so many services or products.
Sure.
Within the scope of engine components that are required, we do try and offer our customers as many as we can, which does two things, right? Like you said, it will reduce the customer's supplier management because, to make one engine, you need thousands of components.
Of course.
And so you need that many suppliers. If a supplier is able to give you multiple components, then and they're trusted, they're reliable, and they have very high quality standards, then you're very likely to go with that supplier for as many components as they can make for you. So like I said, right, we have 3 flagship components: engine valves, valve guides, and valve seat inserts, and they all kind of they all fit with each other.
Correct.
Right. And so this is one of the reasons that we've been able to survive for so long as well and thrive, is that we're able to offer this as a solution to our customers. And we work, like you said, with very big global as well as domestic players. So
any names you can take? I mean, if it is possible.
So I can take a few names.
Sure.
We supply to Tata Motors, we supply to Bajaj, to Caterpillar, to Cummins. Now, Caterpillar is very special to me because when I joined 3 years ago, we were just in the process of bringing them in. We were in the very initial stages of, our discussion with them. And at this point, my father unfortunately passed away, and the onus fell on me, to kind of give Caterpillar the confidence and give these high-level executives sitting, in different parts of the world, the confidence that I will be able to develop and deliver the components that they need. Now, it's been a really long journey, and it's been, wrought with challenges, including COVID-19, including shutdowns and lockdowns, and, immense amount of uncertainty at one point. But with their support, with my team's support, and with kind of, finding the confidence in myself, we really did manage to pull this off really well. And this year in January, we started our regular production for them. So it gives you an idea, right, of how difficult it is to kind of get into supplying for one of these customers.
Yes, but Anoushka, your master's degree is in international relations and social anthropology, which has got nothing to do with valves and valves insert in internal combustion engines of large OEMs like Caterpillar or Tata Motors. So sounds very unconventional work for somebody like you, that too predominantly, and I would like to believe, a fairly male industry, manufacturing, blue-collared worker, white-collar workers, and supply chain. So help me decipher this unconventionality that seems to
Sure,
have played out for you, if I've got that right.
sure. Um, so I have this knack of being able to take like the theory of something and then apply it to different contexts, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at social anthropology, what is it? It's the study of human culture and society, how we
Correct.
develop, how we interact. What are our forms of exchange? How do we build family? How do we build kinship? How do we then blow that up into, a society level? If you look at a business, it's pretty much like a small state or a small city, or a
Yeah, it's a
small
community
town,
by itself.
community of people.
Yes.
So it's a lot of culture building, it's a lot of relationship management, it's about being able to understand where the other person is coming from and then find solutions in accordance, right? It's not about, okay, I am the boss's daughter, therefore I get to
Correct.
do whatever I want and I have decided I'm going to run the business this way. It's about being able to engage with all of the different arms of the business, the workforce, the managers, the supervisors, all of the different levels of employees that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and then build that community. So a lot of the work that I did in university in learning how to decipher built communities, because I kind of inherited one,
Yes.
and then how to make them evolve, how to identify the patterns of evolution. So I use a lot of that in my day-to-day work, and even international relations. I mean, what is it? It is about how do countries deal with each other, right?
You say this so nicely because as a student of organization theory and management, and I do practice my work in organization development, and we do look at various metaphors. No problem. We look at various metaphors that owners or executives of an organization hold in their mind when they look at an organization. By and large, most organizations are built on the model of modern day warfare, right? I mean, the whole world of strategy, execution, what the Western world has taught, especially management students in India. Whereas here you're talking about very, very different meta for an organization, not as a war to be won and not being a warlord in expanding territory and gaining market share, but essentially creating, building, and sustaining communities. There seems to be a very beautiful human element that seems to be at play. I don't know. How do you see this?
Yeah, again, I would agree with you there. I think there's a lot of unconventionality in my approach to running the business as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you said, right? A lot of business is seen as like a war, like you got to win and it's a zero-sum game,
Correct.
which in our business is not possible because, like you said earlier on, right? We are very critical to our supplier, to our customers, as critical as our customers are to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see ourselves as supplier partners,
Mm-hmm.
right? So whether it's about internally managing your business or externally managing your customers, it's about recognizing that we're all building a community, right? We're all invested in building this one product. And
Correct.
so how best can we all work together, support each other, recognize what our customers needs are, our customers then recognize what our needs are, and it's a very symbiotic relationship. There's a lot of exchange, there's a lot of technical exchange, there's a lot of management exchange. So I can give you a small example, right? We
Mm-hmm.
also supply to Koyal, Kirloskar Oil Engines. And
Correct.
we've had a very long relationship with them as well. And they took a particular interest in me. They saw my story and um, they just, me
You the
as an
person.
individual,
Oh, you are okay.
right? Me as
Okay.
an individual running Perfect, who they have had a relationship with for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have gone out of their way to train me, to develop me in the ways that they would like their supplier to be, right? Similarly, Caterpillar did this too. Now, when I speak of Koyal, they also give you, they make these supplier clusters. You get
Correct.
Six Sigma training programs. You get all sorts of MSME training programs. They keep putting together different workshops, seminars. Sometimes, like you said, it's just me and 30 other men in a room, and we're all suppliers to this one customer, right? And you'd be surprised that people actually make space to hear what I have to say, because they know I come from this unconventional background, and they're interested to see how I think about the problem or what my potential solutions would be. Right. So in that way, I find myself really privileged to be able to work with such people who take so much um, uh, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? They take a lot of effort, and they
What
invest a
you're,
lot.
yeah, what
And
you are also, what is also coming to my mind as we speak is the science of management, the way it has been, it was conceptualized probably in the Harvards and the Whartons of the world in the West. And the way traditionally businesses are being run, especially in countries like India, where I know after almost 3+ decades of liberalization of the Indian economy, if we were to look at professionally run companies by executives who have been hired from maybe the IIMs for that matter, and family run businesses, and if you look at a single benchmark of market capitalization on BSE or NSE, what data I see is after 3 decades of liberalization, it's the family business which is standing heads and shoulders above the businesses which are run by professional managers educated by IIMs. So, being a part of a family business, how do you see this uh, organization space where there are these two uh, sort of cultures trying to play a role? The family business entrepreneur bringing in family values, creating clusters and community, as you talked. Because I know Shantanu Rao Kirloskar, the great founder of Kirloskar Oil Engines, was one of the pioneers of industry in India, and he believed in investing in suppliers and communities, which, of course, the great Mr. Suman Mulgaonkar did with Tata Motors and so on and so forth, which is very unlike Western management. So before we move into track, because this is one space I would like to hear from you, Anoushka, because you represent the future of Indian family business as I see it.
so I think that's a really interesting question you've brought up there, right? Traditionally, one would think that, running a family business will be far more challenging than running something that's fully professional, but you can actually turn that into a strength.
Yes.
And one of the reasons that I actually decided to, I mean, it wasn't, if I really didn't want to do this, I could have said no. But I chose not to say no, because in losing my father, I also recognized that there is now a responsibility and a duty that falls upon me for all of the people that have, I mean, our organization is over 700 people, right? That's not a small number of people or a small number of families that are associated with those people.
Of course.
When you're, the strength, I would say, in a family business, and we aren't fully family owned anymore, but okay. I think that is also a strength, right? To be partly family owned, partly have professionals involved, but the buck stops with us. The factory is run because members of the Shah family are there. And I'm not saying if I stop going to work, the factory won't run, but that personal touch, that family touch that you are able to give to every single worker who your father worked with, who your grandfather worked with, to managers and employees who've been there for literally older than my age.
Of course.
We have people who have been with this company for much longer than I have been on this planet. And if you're able to nurture those relationships, right, and take them forward and build on the goodwill that, at least in my case, the goodwill that my father and my grandfather left me, then you can turn that into your biggest asset, then whatever the challenges may be, whether you're trying to pivot into new, new product lines, whether you're trying to, bring in new customers, the kind of support that you are able to kind of garner from your people, because they are not just invested in their jobs because, this is what they do, this is their bread and butter, but they are also invested in the overall success of the organization. It's as much theirs as it is ours. you know.
Undoubtedly, Anushka, this is one lesson I would like to believe at least India as a culture can give to the whole world in terms of creating organizations and running them successfully, irrespective of the scale, is this concept of kartaship. I am the karta purush, as they call it, or purush is not. I'm not using it from a gender sense. It could also be women entrepreneurs as well, but I am the head of the family, and I am responsible for the well-being of not only every member of the organization, but the larger family that they represent. This is something, Anushka, I would look forward to you probably giving a talk at the CII one of these days on this aspect. There's so much of wealth of experience you have, despite just 3 years into this in this business. But just to change tracks, what I know that what you're doing today hasn't arrived overnight. As they say, for some are fortunate to make careers choices, some choices are thrust upon them, and which is probably what has happened to you. But a lot, I believe, has also come across the way you've grown up, your unconventional upbringing. You were telling me when we spoke last couple of days back, was the influence of living across different cities, different schools, and living both in the East and the West. So, why don't you walk us through how that has influenced you in being who you are today and you doing what you are doing today?
Sure, I can speak to that. So yeah, by no means was my childhood traditional, and they say it takes a village to raise a child, and there was really a village enlisted in my raising.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Bombay, I lived in Lonavala, in Pune, went to 5 different schools over my schooling career, all different boards. So from Montessori's to ICSE, CBSE, eventually I graduated from an IB school. But what this did is it made me really adaptive. I had many, many first days and many, many last days of school.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make friends every couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it really does, one, it teaches you how to adapt, right? And how to start becoming comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And a lot of my life has been finding ways to make myself comfortable in situations that I'm unfamiliar with, and then to become comfortable with that unfamiliarity. And so now, you can throw me into the deep end of anything, and within a couple of days, I'll find my wits around myself. The second aspect to that is that because I've had to make so many friends, over and over again, establish new friendships, and I'm an only child. So it's, for me, friendships are very dear.
Mm-hmm.
Close friends are akin to family. And that has really allowed me to develop the empath inside and to be able to connect with people from all walks of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
That plays a critical role in not just, running the operations of my business. So dealing with anyone from the workforce to my plant heads, to my purchase heads, or whoever it may be, to dealing with high power executives at Cummins or a Caterpillar or anywhere else, to
Mm-hmm.
dealing with suppliers of raw material, to machines and tools. So yeah, it's definitely played a very important role in shaping my personality and my ability to then rise to those challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second part, which is, after I finished my schooling, I moved to Scotland. I was there for 4.5 years. And that was a very, very impactful time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I left the comforts of home for the first time. So even when I was living in different cities, I was still living in my own home.
Correct.
Here, I suddenly realized that I am on my own. I have to deal with whatever comes my way. I have to take full responsibility for myself. And it really kind of kicked in this sense of agency that I felt was lacking, till I was about 18, 19 years old. And it really thrust upon me the importance of recognizing your own agency.
Mm-hmm.
And by agency, I mean, recognizing that, one, you are responsible for yourself, and two, because you're responsible for yourself, you then have to act upon these things, right?
Correct.
And recognizing that you have the ability to act, you have the ability to make decisions and choices and then bear the consequence of those, and then in turn make further decisions and choices,
Mm.
was um a very important experience again for me. um Another thing I realized is that life in the West is nothing like life is at home.
Mhm.
Life in the West, even though Scotland is a very culturally warm place,
Yes, it is. Yes.
otherwise very cold,
Yes.
um, uh, it's not the same as having everything around you set up for you, knowing that you have your mom, dad, brothers, sisters, cousins, whoever, everybody is a stone's throw away, and even if they're not, you can just kind of go. And it's, we're a very intrusive people
Correct.
in India, at least. In
Intrusive. I mean,
US,
come on, yeah. Intrusive to the extent of, say, to the extent, and you talked about agency. I think here we are in India, where even today in 2022, when you should have your first kid is what a decision parents take.
exactly. um so I think there's an interesting duality there, right, where
Correct.
I was given this this opportunity to be free and to
Mm,
make my own choices, and my parents were so liberal. They were like, you go, you stumble 100 times, pick yourself up. If you're falling really badly, we'll catch you. Until then, we'll let you fall.
mm, mm,
um so again, recognizing that I live in this individualistic culture,
mm.
one, it made me really appreciate what I had at home. But
Correct.
like you said, it really gave me a sense of agency and responsibility and being able to then make decisions, right? I feel like a lot of young people, especially, young people who come from at least some degree of privilege, can sometimes kind of end up in this option paralysis situation where, a
Yes.
lot of things are available to you.
Correct.
And then because you've had such comforts growing up, it can become very taxing to then make a choice and stand by it.
Correct.
It can become very difficult to do that, and I don't think people actually, I don't know, I don't want to generalize, but I don't think a lot of people realize that this is a very serious problem, that we're, um and so throwing people in the deep end sometimes is a good way to get around that.
But Anushka,
um,
yours is also, like, of course, many young and enterprising Indians, is a story of, born in India, growing up in India, and then going to the Western world, whether it is UK, US, Scotland in your case, living that life through, let's say, a graduation years, etc. Either staying on further, or probably coming back. You are not just traversing geography and traversing time, you're also probably traversing a, a very important emotional spectrum called trust. That's a journey each one has to walk through, isn't it? Because uh, to recognize, acknowledge, accept one's sense of agency, make decisions, and own up the consequences does call for a very high degree of sensitivity and belief in an element called trust. uh, I mean, I don't know how. What do you say to this?
yeah, again, Milind, I would agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
The agency can only kick in once you're able to start having that trust, right? And when you say trust, for me, that translates into having trust and faith in yourself first,
Correct.
and then in all of the things around you, right? And then being able to also decipher what to put your trust in and what not to, right? Um, so again, I feel like that's a very difficult thing to develop when you are living in the comforts of your home.
Correct.
And when you're far away physically, and even your connectedness sometimes can suffer because you're in different time zones. It's difficult to find the time to spend with your family and your loved ones. um and so again, that trust kicks in, right? To have faith that the people that you love at home still love you, to have faith that the friends that you left behind will be there when you go back, to have faith that the friends who have also gone places will not forget you, right? And you won't forget them. So it works on multiple levels, right? Whether it's in your personal relationships, whether it's in the choices you're making. Now, when you're in university, it's again this very transformative period, right? And you're standing at the brink of adulthood. You have to start making these career choices and
Yes.
decisions, and it can be very scary. And everybody's sitting in the library and writing out 500 job applications, and you're sitting there and thinking, oh my God, I don't even know what I want to apply to.
And then there is this 800-pound gorilla, which is,
Yes.
which is there in the room, but you can't see, is this world of relationship that you have to negotiate. When I'm saying relationship of all kinds, not just a relationship with your family members, but even the gender relationship, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's also a place where one has to find feet at 18, 19, 20, the man that I am or the woman that I am, and the kind of partnership that I'm seeking. And again, the sense of agency doesn't, it's, if there is a mathematical formula, I would like to put it as the sense of agency is directly proportional to the experience of trust and mistrust, both.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you have to then negotiate it by yourself, for yourself. There's nobody out there to help you.
And ultimately, right, when you have experiences where you feel a loss of agency, which I've had, you realize that, you can have all of the love and support and all of the trust with other people, with these relationships that you've built.
Correct.
But you have to regain that trust and that faith in yourself to be able to recognize your own agency again. Right. And so it all comes back to that trust. And I think personally for me, as long as you're able to find the faith and the trust in yourself, the faith and the trust in everything around you will fall into place one way or another. And the things that aren't for you will also reveal themselves.
But as they say in Hindi, ye dil ka mamla hai. This whole trust business is all dil ka mamla, not intellectual, because there are letdowns, probably most unexpected letdowns, and then they would probably end up in the broken heart. And there is nobody out there to mend that heart. I just want to pick your brains on that part, not nothing to do with your personal, life as you've gone through, because I know that's a very difficult emotional journey you have gone through, having walked that path of, probably having got the heart broken, but mending it at the same time. Yeah. So how did that happen for you? What got you up and running once again after you had this brief but intense experience of lack of trust, belief, agency?
So a lot of it is, the support circle and support system that you have around you. It's important to have one.
Sure.
It's important that, it functions well. And lucky for me, because a lot of people, unfortunately, don't, again, have the privilege of having a very functional support system. Like I said, that's one part of it. In the end, you have to wake up one morning and tell yourself, enough is enough. Intellectually, you understand what's happening. You can chalk it all out. And it's a matter of will. Mm-hmm. There's no secret to it. It's no magic sauce. There's no revelation that happens one fine day. You don't feel enlightened like the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. None of this happens. Every day, you cultivate a little bit will, at least for me, right? So again, it's a personal experience. And one day you wake up and you feel like, okay, my will bucket is pretty full. Mm-hmm. And it's time to act on the will. And it's about, engaging in those activities that are normal or that bring you joy or give you that sense of agency and that sense of normalcy. Because again, once you lose agency for any reason, it's very difficult to become the same person that you were. You have to evolve into something else.
Yeah, otherwise there's this abyss of anxiety and depression that you end up going through. But then you had a kind of a lifeline thrown to you in that very critical stage of where you found a love for art,
right?
Which kind of got you back to where you are. And so that's walk us through an actual experience that, because I know you were telling me the other day, but love to hear that again, Anoushka.
So I'll just back up a little bit with the art. So art, like before I could write or read or anything, like I was drawing on paper. Like my mom would hand me a pencil and a paper, and I was busy making something or the other. And art has always been this kind of anchor for me,
Mm-hmm.
where whether it was through school or through college or even today, if I'm able to immerse myself in something creative, I kind of start feeling that will and that sense of, I'm able to get through things come to me. It's a very meditative experience. Now I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I engage in multiple art forms. Uh, Particularly, I think something that really stuck with me was also origami
Mm-hmm.
and folding paper. And the beauty of folding paper into these magical shapes is that it is a flat sheet of paper. And
Mm.
you have taken a flat sheet of paper, and by making, whether it's a couple of folds, simple folds, or whether it's hundreds of intricate folds, you are able to transform this very, unassuming, simple piece of paper into a peacock or a butterfly or all sorts of various animals and characters and creatures and you know lots of types of origami, so I won't get into the details of it. But that experience of focusing on something is so meditative that it's very healing.
Does it
You
help you in your day job?
It helps me in my day job as well, and I'm a fidgety person by nature.
Uh-huh.
Having something in my hands actually improves my attention.
Mm-hmm.
And when I need to think through problems, right, when I'm problem solving, usually I'll either have like something to doodle with, or I'll have some paper to fold in my hands. And because the part of my brain that's going to kind of go into 15 or 20 different directions is busy
Mm.
folding or
Mm.
drawing,
Mm.
I'm able to then channel the rest of my energy into solving the problem, right? And I feel like a lot of us today have, issues with our attention span because
Yes.
of, Facebook and Instagram and social media and the entire mechanism that's basically meant to capitalize on your attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important that we're able to find these activities that help us hone our attention to specific things for at least, reasonable durations of time.
And you had this very interesting artistic tryst which took you to Malaysia.
Yes.
Oh, उसके बारे में कुछ बताओ.
Sure. So in 2017, I was the first recipient of the Poesy Prize. I'm a poesy scholar.
Yes.
And this was started by Poesy Lang and a very dear friend of mine, Jessica Steinberg.
Mm-hmm.
And they started a scholarship for women who are creatively inclined, and women who then get to go and spend time with Poesy Liang, who's a well-established artist and humanitarian who does a lot of art for social change and social impact. And as the recipient of this scholarship, I got to spend a week with her in Malaysia. And she planned out all sorts of activities based on my interests. And at that point, of course, I was still very much looking at a career in international relations. But something that really stuck with me from
Mm-hmm.
this experience, and I must tell you, she is just an incredible woman. She is
Yes.
she is a true energy to be around.
Yes.
And she took me to one of her ventures called Helping Angels, which has been
Mm-hmm.
running for over a decade now,
Mm.
where they create different types of creative programs for children and people from various types of underprivileged communities, right? So the one we were working with in Malaysia, they were all children of refugees.
Oh.
And so we were working with them, teaching them how to make little greeting cards, Christmas cards, different types of, artistic activities, which could then be sold.
Correct.
Right. And then Poesy would use her very large network of patrons and sponsors and sell these Christmas cards and Chinese New Year's cards and, all sorts of occasions that come up. And whatever money is then made is that goes back to these children for whatever they may need, to fund the next round of these programs. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of creating, social change through local impact. And so that also inspired me to start something similar in Pune.
Mm-hmm.
And that brought me to the Community Art Club. Now, the Community Art Club is a platform where we try to promote local artists, and we run various workshops with featuring one specific artist and their art form. The second aim of the the platform is to democratize art and to make it accessible. And I want to give people the experience that I have with art, right? Which is not that you have to be the best or you have to be extremely talented or you have to be able to sketch beautiful. No, it is about being able to express yourself and your feelings. It's therapy, and if you, I mean, if you notice now, art therapy is getting pretty big, but what is it, right? For artists, even well established artists, art is just therapy, healing.
Absolutely. This art is a therapy. Art is an expression, something which you and I can have another podcast, maybe for 2 hours for sure. But you know, uh, can I ask you one thing? Are you blessed with having 36 hours in a day?
No, I just find them.
No, because to do what you're doing is to run a business of more than 700 people, 5 decades old, global multinationals in automotive OEMs, then practice art, do this social impact thing. So, having had your hands full at this point in time, as it sounds to me, if you were to say that these are the dreams and aspirations and hopes that Anoushka Shah has for herself. If I could ask that, because as we are coming to the end of this conversation, I thought let's end this conversation on a high note.
Sure. um Frankly, running my business was never a dream, and it was always an option.
Mm-hmm.
um Becoming an artist was a dream, but not practical.
Mm-hmm.
Today I feel like what I thought my dreams were have themselves transformed, through all of these experiences. And so for me as an individual, and what Anushka's goals are, right? What she wants to do from here. One, I plan on staying extremely committed to my family business and to keep adding value to it and to find, you know, the right way to run this, to the point where I don't need to be involved in the day to day,
Sure.
right? Which is still a long journey. It's still going to take maybe quite a few years from here to get
Sure.
to that point.
Sure.
But that's definitely, one of my major focuses. And the second thing is to then take all of these skills that I've been fortunate enough to pick up over the years through these multitude of very different experiences, um, and potentially start my own venture. So the Community Art Club is, of course, a platform. It's also a service-facing platform. So for every paid workshop, we run free workshops and things like that. But because of that local aspect, right, I want to keep it local because I believe in that. You need to have complete accountability and transparency through that process, and you can only achieve that on a local level. So what do I do once my business is automated?
Oh, there'll be 10 other things calling your attention. I know.
And Anushka will find 10 other things to put her
Because
attention.
Anushka is a fidgety person. She can't let her fingers stay still. She will get her fingers into 10 other things. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, let's say 5 years from now, I would actually, come across at least two or three very distinct ventures that you seem to be, wanting to create. But Anushka, what a wonderful conversation this has been. For me to meet a very, very young, energetic, vibrant, passionate, emotionally committed businesswoman and a young entrepreneur at such a young age doing such a wonderful thing. And I think people like you are truly, what shall I say? Uh, I don't have words at this point in time, but I know your smile is very infectious. I said that to you when I met you first. And this smile of yours, let that win many, many friends all around the world as you move forward. So all I can say as we end this show is I wish you loads and loads of happiness, and I wish you a great life ahead. And as we end the show, if we can just hear from you quickly how this almost 45 minutes of conversation has been for you. This is probably the longest podcast on the Wings platform.
No, I would really firstly, thank you again for giving me this opportunity, because it's rare that I take time to stop and reflect on all of the things that I'm doing.
Mhm.
And in speaking with you, you've given me this, this time to reflect and to do this. And I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you very much for that. Secondly, Milind, I think you're a great host.
Thank you so
You
much.
have this extraordinary ability to make people feel comfortable and get them to open up and get them to think critically about, the experiences they've had and what that means, and then translate it so beautifully. I'll apologize for the running
No
too
sweat,
long.
no sweat. But Anushka, one of the very personal objectives that Asha and I have in creating this podcast at this age in our life, both of us are in our mid to late 50s, and it's a kind of a second inning for both of us. And it's actually in a very unsaid manner, we are looking at this podcast to be a platform for regeneration and renewal of for ourselves. So it's a very selfish motive we are creating, that we hope this platform and the stories that come on the platform not only regenerate and renew the creators of the podcast, that is me and Asha, but I am sure with stories like yours and many more we have had earlier and we will have going forward. My wish and hope, and Asha's wish and hope, she joins me in this, is let Wings be a platform that regenerates and renews just about everybody who gets touched by the platform. And you definitely are one such champion to do that. So thank you so much, Anushka. Wonderful. And I look forward to having the Dr. Cooper's chocolate fudge from you. You promised that to me. And when I'm back in India, we will meet in Lonavala at your place for lunch, and look forward to the chocolate fudge. And I want to get some very interesting Californian chocolate for you from here.
Oh, I have the biggest sweet tooth, so I'll be very happy. And please, it's an open invite. Please come as soon as you can.
Yes.
And I will have lots of chocolate fudge for you.
Done, dear. Done.
Tired
Dear.
of the chocolate fudge.
Done. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Give love to both your ma and your grandma, who is our dear friend. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye. Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75@gmail.com. Thank you.